Everyone, welcome back to Be the Revolution, how to create vision, strategies, and solidarity for sustainable social movements. I am really excited to bring to you today's guests, Daniel and Michelle from We and Goliath.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
Great to be here with you, Jay, and everybody.
Yeah, and you guys have been so instrumental in putting together this entire summit. You know, I met Daniel and Michelle. For those of you who wouldn't know this, I met Daniel and Michelle over the summer, and we were part of a big initiative called America Meditates. And it was Marianne Williamson and a bunch of great speakers. It was basically a 3-day policy summit to bring meditation and holistic health into policy. And there were actually members of the Veterans Administration, but really trying to get these new ideas out. And I was so impressed by just the way that you guys were being and just, you know, how professional you were. And we just had such a great rapport that when it came time to put together the summit, like, you guys were definitely one of my first calls.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, so want to
and help you get this out there. We're psyched about the summit, and launching it with you has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this has really been something that we've co-created, you know, because getting to know you, my experience with you is you really genuinely care about progressive causes and, you know, transformation and empowering activists. And so, you know, tell a little bit about what is We and Goliath. You know, I understand it's cause-based, you know, marketing. You help people, you help causes to get better with their message, help amplify it. But tell us a little bit about We and Goliath. What do you guys do?
Yeah, like, we really help good causes amplify and clarify their message. For 20 years, we've both done marketing, and we really believe that it starts with clarifying, and then you can't grow something that's not clear. I like to say nobody walks into a fog. Mm-hmm. So
why is it important right now? Like, why is it important to you? Why not just go and work for, you know, consultancies or to market to corporations? Or why do this? Why work in the nonprofit sector, in the cause sector, which is very hard? It's like,
well, it's certainly not the most profitable industry, that's for sure. So you have to have a compassion for it.
In case you're wondering, we're not doing it for the money.
No, we're not.
There's no money.
Very much the case. Yeah, I mean, I can speak to, I was in 6th grade when I was preaching about the environment, and I've had a passion for all kinds of causes since I was a little kid. So this is just ingrained in my soul. My dad was a minister, and he kind of instilled that in me. And as I grew up, I just wanted to keep serving.
So really driven by a sense of moral clarity. And your background is in community development?
Yeah, I studied community development, lived in intentional communities, specifically sustainable community development. We learned a lot about solutions in college. And since then, I've just been super passionate about pushing those solutions. And all the businesses I've started and helped have been around, like, solutions for environment, social justice, nonprofits. And honestly, it's a fun industry to be in. I love it, as hard as it is at times, and as challenging as it is.
I know that you and I really both connected at first. We're really empathizing with each other of our experience of working for causes we were passionate about, but there's so much breakdown in the process, and people not having the time or the money, and people not being in alignment with their word. You know, maybe they think they have good intentions, but down the road, it gets complicated, we'll say. And I think you and I really connected over that, wanting to really do good work and bring our skills to good causes. And at the same time, it can be hard a lot of times.
Yeah, we've all experienced that burnout, and it sucks. I mean, there's been times when I've had to step back and say, I'm just going to take care of myself for a while, and then come back into it with a fresh mindset.
Yeah, I would say also I've worked with nonprofits for about 15 years as a volunteer, as an organizer, as staff, and found Like often they're really struggling for clarity of vision, like cohesiveness, empowerment of volunteers, so important. You know, we don't want to be cogs in a machine. Like, give us an exciting role, give us effective marketing tools so we can just grow. We don't have to recreate the wheel all the time. There was a lot of great heart, but not always thinking through how is this going to really empower people and make the most of all these excited, passionate volunteers that we have. So that's part of why I started getting into marketing for nonprofits and causes.
And I got to say, for me, it's like also with co-creating this summit series with you guys, and you know, and also the work we did with that initiative. For me, like I was so impressed with your ability to just be really clear and professional and keep a high vibe the whole time, even though there was a lot of chaos happening and not everybody being able to show up with a, you know, we'll just say like having different capacities to be able to show up in a kind of a professional way, you know, and to do the things that we say we're going to do and create effective results. And I was just so impressed with your ability to just be clear, you know, you always did what you said you were going to do. And I always love it. It was like that scene in Batman where the Joker's like, where does he get those wonderful toys? Like you always had a new platform that I never heard of. Like, oh, well, we're just going to use Voodoo or whatever, like whatever. You're like, basically for any challenge we had, there was a digital platform that could help us get more effective at doing the thing that we wanted to do.
Yeah, we're pretty much geeks to the core. There's no getting around it.
What were some of the big challenges that you had working with nonprofits and working in the cause-related field?
Well, like I said, empowering volunteers with effective marketing is, I think, what I saw as one of the biggest challenges. Like, so many people are out there creating flyers from scratch as a volunteer because they weren't given one, a flyer template that they can just change the date on. It's so important. If you're doing events all the time, you need an event platform, you need logins, you know. So I helped create systems for that in the past, and like just resources that people can use and repeat. That was one really big one.
Yeah, part of good marketing is just staying on brand. And when everyone's trying to create different materials, then it messes up the message because people don't recognize it as being from the same organization or from the same cause. So it is really important to establish colors and a general theme ahead of time.
Why is that important?
Because we, as our minds register, like the audience that we're speaking to, we only get a few seconds to get our point across, and they're registering the colors, they're registering the image in a way that it reminds them of something that they've seen before, and that repetition is really important to establishing that connection with your brand.
Awesome. How about you, Daniel? What do you think? Why is all that important?
Yeah, consistency is core to professionalism in your brand. Visual, verbal. The other big point that I think is missing for a lot of causes, nonprofits, campaigns is credibility. Documenting the good work that you're doing is something that most nonprofits don't make time for. They think I'm too busy. I put in so much work to create this event, and it's just one too many things to bring a videographer or to ask a volunteer to bring their iPhone and take footage. But it is so crucial to come across as to create the credibility that you're really making an impact. You gotta create video, capture stories, get B-roll footage, testimonials. And I think the organizations that do that and that I've helped coach do that, they just come across so much more inspiring and believable in their message.
Yeah, I think part of it too is because we have been conditioned by this, and I hate these conversations about branding and about all that, you know, and at the same time, you know, is your mission the most important thing, and the people you're trying to inspire? Because think about the people out there. We've been conditioned from the time we were, you know, little kids by the best advertising and commercials and production, you know. So, and there's a certain level to which if that professionalism isn't there in how you're presenting your message, I find that it's people don't trust you.
Yeah.
And I think if people are going to follow you and follow in your message, it's important for me to make it as easy as possible. And I still have a long ways to go with it. It's important to me to make it as easy as possible for them to trust, you know, trust in the vision of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you don't want to be dismissed before you even start to talk.
Mm-hmm.
People make a judgment about you after seeing your website or your flyer in 2 seconds. You
That's
make a
right.
snap judgment. Does this look professional or not? After 5 seconds, they say, is this for me? Is this relevant? Is this interesting? So yeah, you need 2 seconds for a good look, 5 seconds for a message that just hooks them in.
But the key is if you do it once and then have that template for other people to work with, it's so much less work in the end. Like it feels like a lot of work to begin with, you know, or it's daunting to try to think about creating systems, but those systems go so far.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get into the systems because this is definitely relevant for someone whose mission is much more developed. They have a team, probably, they have some funding. But a lot of the people that we're presenting this to, maybe they don't know how to get started, or maybe they have an idea of where they want to contribute. Maybe they have an idea about a mission that they want to get into, but it's hard for them to bridge that gap between being a, I think, Michelle, you taught us going from being a consumer to being a creator or a leader.
Yeah.
You know, so what advice would you have for someone who's just getting started out? Maybe they feel like they have something to say, but maybe they're just on social media and they share cat videos and the cat videos get 50 likes, but they go to talk about politics or some kind of cause and they get zero traction.
Yeah, and we experience that too. If I post something about politics, yeah, 3 likes. But one thing that we've found is that asking questions goes a long way, and you don't need a budget to ask questions on social media. So if you're thinking about getting yourself out there and talking about a particular topic, it helps to just post these questions on social, on all different channels, and even on some forums and groups. Go
Like
into
what
Facebook
forums?
groups.
Where could you go for forums?
Like find Facebook groups in particular that are related to what you're talking about. Or even
Reddit forums also.
Reddit forums are excellent. I love Reddit for getting feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And then like listen to what people are saying, really hear their language they're using, and then you can mold and shape your message based on what those people are really wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start to know that, okay, this is a good idea and this is going to start to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your Facebook your Facebook friends are not necessarily the message for your audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your high school friends or whatever, like they may not be interested in where your heart is at right now. So reaching out to those communities and seeing what resonates there. When you find like you're really passionate about something and you've got a clear message, then maybe it's time to get into blogging or starting a YouTube channel or being a guest on an interview like this or on a podcast.
So I'm starting out, like I have a mission, I have a message, you know, or at least I have a more of a clear idea of like what I want to say and where I want to go with my mission, you know, at that point. But let's say like I don't really have the team, or I don't have the funding, or I don't have the infrastructure, but I definitely want to start getting into the conversation. Like where's a good place to start? Like you mentioned a couple different ways, a couple of different tactics, but what's a good place to start, you think?
Mm-hmm. It depends if you want to start on your own,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to create a team, you want to join an existing group or an existing cause. You got a lot of avenues, but if you're starting on your own, content marketing with blogging, with videos, Facebook and Instagram story videos, just building a little tribe around you and your message.
Mm-hmm.
in whatever format feels really natural to you. Maybe you like talking only on audio, start a podcast. If you like being on video, start with Facebook Live and stories. If you like writing, start a blog. You know.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we really like to do, because it's hard starting out to find the time. Typically people have, a full-time job, and so, or you're taking care of kids, whatever your situation might be, finding that time to create content can be daunting. So what we like to do is we have a park right next door, and I'll just walk around the park with my speaker on and I'll just talk while I'm walking. And as I do that, I'm recording. I'm essentially recording a post for a blog and an idea for a video. So I can then go back later and make a video about what I was talking about, and we can get that transcribed and then edited and turned into a blog post, and then cut that up into social media posts. You can cut the video up into social posts. So there's ways of stacking functions, which we learned in permaculture, right? Stack your functions and get it done a lot faster that way.
So, okay. So just to repeat that was really, really interesting. So, I'm out walking my dog. If I had a dog, my imaginary dog. So I'm out walking my dog in the park. And meanwhile, I could take out my phone and I can record my message in my own voice, right? And then that recording I make, I can upload to, there's a couple sites that you guys mentioned. One is RevCom. Otter's one you said?
Otter.ai. You get up to 10 hours of free transcription. It's instant. It's pretty accurate. You can edit in there. Really useful to turn audio.
So I've also used Temi, Temi. I've also used rev.com, rev.com, also does pretty good transcriptions, and Otter is free. Others are a little bit more. So basically I'm talking on my phone, I record my message, I get it transcribed, and then what can I do once it's transcribed?
Well, once it's going to transcribe automatically while you're talking. So by the time you're home, you'll have a transcription, but it's going to be kind of messy. So you can then decide whether you want to edit that and turn it into a blog post, or whether you want to record a quick video based on what you were just talking about, because then it might be more concise once you've done it a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And
what are some blog sites that you recommend? I mean, for me, I've mostly posted to Medium, but I find Medium to be pretty accessible. But what are some other blog sites that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I think it's great to start with Medium, with Reddit, with Facebook, with LinkedIn, if it's a professional audience, and with guest posting. Don't be shy to offer a post to a niche blog, a magazine, to Huffington Post. They accept a lot of bloggers without a history of blogging. Because it's not fun to just blog onto your .com into thin air with no audience. So
it really isn't.
.com.
Really isn't. I wrote an article I said to you, it was like 15,000 words on 27 reasons Trump won that have nothing to do with Susan Sarandon, and it's way more fun when people read it. You put all that work into it. It's way more. So you're saying just reach out to those sites, to the contact, and just offer. Should it be based on what's current, or what's a good strategy?
Yeah, so here's a great tip to get their interest. Find their most popular posts and think about how you can talk about that most popular post topic with something that you know. So you're going to kind of merge things into what their audience is going to be interested in. So when you reach out to them, you can say, I would love to write a blog post about this topic. And I saw that you're getting a lot of response on this other topic, and I feel like this relates really well. So that would catch their attention. It would get them knowing that you're thinking about their particular blog and really interested in them.
Very cool.
Another great tool for that is called Haro, Help a Reporter Out. So you can sign up to be an expert on a particular subject. And then reporters, they need to get quotes from people often. So if you're like by the phone and you're one of the first people to respond to that reporter, you can get quoted in major news articles, and then you can say as seen in, and they come to you. You don't have to come to them with that tool. So it's really
help a reporter out. Haro. Very cool. And you talked about repurposing that blog. You know, you've said that to me, like, all right, repurpose these blogs. You know, what does that mean?
That's crucial. Like, so you wrote this amazing, detailed, long article, 27 reasons why Bernie lost that didn't have to do with Susan Sarandon.
Was so why Trump won, actually.
Right, excuse me. So what I recommended to you was take each of those 27 reasons and turn them into an individual article with an individual headline, a unique, value-based, interesting headline. And then just write a custom intro to that. So you've chopped up one article into 27 articles. With each of those articles, create a couple social media posts. And so now you have 100 social media posts, and you can schedule those out over time. And then maybe even you could continue and make a short video for each of those, a 30-second video, and link to those articles.
So using the video then to promote the blog, or just
the short blog post, and then all those short blog posts create a link to your big blog post, maybe, and that will really help you rank.
What are some of the common I don't like to think about it as mistakes, but when people are going through the growing pains of trying to get to that next phase in whatever they're doing when it comes to creating a team or a mission, like what are some of the common I don't like to say mistakes, but what are some of the common areas for growth that you guys have seen that people make in terms of their marketing or their messaging?
It's really easy to give up too quickly. So it in the beginning, it can feel grueling because you're putting content out there and nobody's seeing it, or just a couple people like it, and it takes a while. And you just have to keep at it, be persistent, and be consistent, and just tell yourself, I'm going to do this every week on Monday or whatever day is most convenient for you. Just pick a time and a day and do it, and know that you're going to post the following day, or you're going to just keep a schedule for yourself. And once you get that routine down, you'll be able to build and grow.
The human mind loves that consistency. And I think that with one of the things I've heard, not something I've been able to do effectively yet, but one of the feedbacks I've gotten is, creating trust with the people you're trying to talk to by showing up at a certain place in a certain time. Like, I know people who are really successful at this strategy who, like, every Wednesday at 7 a.m., they are going to be having a Facebook Live, for instance, and there's a consistency to it that builds trust. Or they're sending their messaging their list, at the same time, or they're posting in social media at the same time.
Yeah, I like to say clarity plus consistency equals influence or authority. Right.
And what are, in terms of clarifying your message, getting better at messaging, what are also some of the common, common areas for growth or common mistakes you see people making? What makes you cringe?
Yeah, talking too much about yourself instead of the people you're trying to serve and that you do serve, right? Using too many I statements and blocks of text. These days, people don't read, we scan. So when you're writing blog posts and websites, think short sentences, short paragraphs, and you got to break them up with bold headlines that say something. So first, all we do is read the headlines before we read the article. If you read the headlines and they seem interesting, then you'll scroll back to the top and actually read the thing.
Yeah, so the wall of text, like it's getting that wall of text, the human mind just like hates that. Also, I found sometimes like bolding certain phrases, like doing like bold face, that certain phrases pop out in that paragraph. So because someone might scan through and they might just pick up one sentence out of each paragraph. So I found that can be effective. But the mind it's like you look at this wall of text and like the mind can't assimilate that information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's first, just to get them to read.
Yeah.
To have a chance at them reading your info, it needs to be formatted like that.
Hmm.
But then what you actually say, you want to think about always, why does this matter? The worst thing is if somebody reads your message and they say, who cares?
Right.
So, to get across out of boring, you need to remember why you're unique, why you're different, why you're relevant, right? And a lot of that, like I said, it comes to just speaking to your audience. Like, how does this matter to them?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. Using conversational language and pretending before you start to write something. And that's why I like to record my voice, because I can pretend, I can put the person I'm talking to in my mind and then talk to them, because I'm going to use a lot more simple words than if I'm sitting in front of the computer typing. Because then I'm a lot more in my head and a lot less in my heart.
Yep. I also find another good feedback I got was also sometimes it's good to write those blog posts if you're writing something topic and current and you're trying to communicate with an audience. Do it from a place where you've just done something joyous, like it'll come through. Like you said, if you're coming from a very like I place or my mission or I think a me-centered thing that's disconnected from, because at the end of the day, people don't care about what they're experiencing really. They don't care about what's going on with you. So one of the cool advices I got was go and do something, like write the blog post or write something after you've just, watched something inspiring, and that kind of love and passion is going to come through.
Yeah. Or when you had a successful campaign, you just had a great event, you had a fundraiser, you had some success. Just think about, what did we do that really made this work, right? What kind of teamwork did we do? Or what kind of outreach or inreach did we do? How did we inspire volunteers? When you have those aha moments, turn those into a short video or a blog.
So a lot of people don't really get more involved because of time. Like you said, like they have a job, they have a family, or they're doing the best they can just to keep the lights on. And so a lot of times the objection is time. I don't have the time. They don't feel like they have the time. And one of the things that I've been really impressed by consistently working with you guys is that there's always another tool. So what are some of the tools that you use or suggest that that people can employ to actually help maximize their reach or their effectiveness in organizing? What are some of those tools that you recommend?
Can you be a little more specific? We have too many.
Yeah.
Like, for what area?
Sure, I see your mind go like so many apps, so many platforms. Like what are some of the things that are important? Emails are important. Facebook posts are important. Facebook Lives are important. Being able to craft like sort of those short explainer videos. So I think there was a platform that you recommended where you actually has a template. It makes it very easy to edit things together.
Great. You want to start? Or?
Oh boy, it's such an open.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a blog post like top 100 tools right now. I've got another article like I think 50 free and discounted tools for nonprofits. I'll have that out really soon, and I'd like to actually, maybe I can offer that as a PDF to this audience.
Awesome.
I've got a way, like, nonprofits need to know you can get $10,000 a month in free ad spend. I'll tell you how through a
super
Google,
valuable.
Yeah, through a Google
and
grant.
so maybe we'll also do another. Maybe we'll do another one of these that is, like we'll do a webinar or something, and we'll dig in.
Go on at length about tools for sure.
But thank you for that. I think that having a PDF with having all of those tools available is going to be really important. It's been it's difficult at first, like psychically, it's like there's so many tools, but I find that now I'm just in the habit of, like, you send me a tool and I just buy it.
Yeah, it's the right tool for the right situation. So we'll send you the PDF to share with the audience. free and discounted tools for nonprofits, and like all the best tools that I recommend for the different situations.
Awesome. So what have been some of the big wins that you've had that for you have been inspiring in terms of being able to help organizations sort of maximize their impact?
You want to start? Or me?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, one of the ones that I'm most proud of, so I was working for a nonprofit that does workshops. That's the basis of their thing, in-person workshops. And often nonprofits struggle trying to appeal to too many audiences, right? To be everything to everyone. And so this was a workshop they were selling. It's about $400. But their webpage was like only this long. So one takeaway that I had that really drove, well, what I did for them, first of all, I ran what's called an A/B test. I redesigned that page with a bunch of market research, copywriting, all the best that I could do. I got them 53% more sales in their core workshop. That's driving most of the revenue for this nonprofit, right?
So what's A/B testing? What does that mean?
So you just compare two versions of a page. You send half the traffic visiting a web page to one version and half the traffic to another version.
And this is something that you're back at, this is the person that's building or running your website. This is something that they do.
Yeah.
So if they put in theory, if they had someone who was building their website or doing that, they could just ask that person to A/B test.
Sure. It's important that they know how to get proper conversions. So there's a lot of different techniques and ways to position your page in order to get the best results.
Yeah, this is not the easiest thing. Not every web designer or developer knows how to do this. But the first step is you got to be doing conversion tracking, right? So you use probably Google Analytics or as a free tool or some other tools to register when a conversion could be an email sign up or a sale usually.
So it's basically someone taking action on what you're inviting them to do.
Yeah. Okay. So your website software, analytics software knows when somebody has done that. And then you count which version created the best results, right? And by how much. And it tells you this version was scientifically 53% more sales, right? Or we got 500% more email signups for another client by optimizing their homepage with a lead magnet. I can come back to that. But here we got 53% more sales for this nonprofit's thing. And a lot of it was by market research, really understanding the audience. And then by realizing that when you have something that's simple, cheap, or understood, you don't need a lot of text to sell it. Like a pair of shoes, like.
But I mean, we're not really selling shoes, really. Like,
I'm just giving this example. Like,
okay.
If you have something that's obvious, you don't need to write about it a lot. You don't have to try that hard. They see something pretty and they buy it. But when you have something that's complex, it's not really well known and or is costly, you have to write about. It takes a lot more to sell it or to get somebody to sign up.
We started with like Medicare for All, for instance, right? So a lot of people might not know even, we talked about single payer healthcare, universal healthcare, but a lot of people know, like, yeah, I want that, but I don't really know what that means. So there's a gap between my mission and, the understanding of the audience.
That's a perfect example. And in fact, something that's sort of bothered me about the Medicare for All argument is that there's not enough explanation that bridges the gap between where are we at now and where are we headed. And that's exactly what we're talking about, in a sense. Like, we need to walk them through that process and show how are we going to get there, and examples of what is working well for other countries.
Testimonials, FAQ, right? There's so many questions that stop people from saying yes, especially like for Medicare for All. Why aren't they talking enough about the transition, right? That's what people are worried about. Am I going to lose my private health insurance? And if I do, what's going to happen? Or with the Green New Deal, if I'm going to lose my job, is there going to be this guaranteed job? And what's that going to look like? And not clarifying these objections, handling the objections, the worries, the hesitations, the fears. You have to do that through written FAQ or through video. You have to build credibility through media coverage, testimonials in very, again, scan-friendly, concise ways, and build the story, right?
So scan-friendly, concise means like assuming that most people are just going to be on their phone and they're going to, you know, they're not going to sit down and give it the type of attention you are. Most
bite size. Everything needs to be bite size, so you can scan it in 1-2 seconds and get that message.
And I think it's also I've also noticed that a lot of times in these organizing spaces, we think about things in terms of how we see them and not necessarily in terms of how other people might see them, you know, in terms of our language and one of the things that I've loved actually in the process of this is you really encourage us to do a lot of polling. Like, so anyone who signed up got a bunch of questions, right? Like they got a bunch of questions. That was mind blowing to me to see the answers. So it was like, we're creating this summit series based on, you know, what we think we need, but it became really clear that there were also a lot of it was nice to see that we were on track with a lot of it. And it was also, you could see some consistent patterns once we actually asked people, you know, what is your biggest pain, struggle or challenge in, you know, either if you're just starting out or you're down the road more. And the data that we collected can help us to create more content that actually addresses the needs of what people are actually going through.
Exactly. It personalizes and humanizes this online experience because I think a lot of us feel similar in the sense that we have a disconnect when it comes to being online versus talking in person. And with these questions, and so that we can better understand everybody that we're speaking to and speaking with, you can build that community with a much more empathic attitude. And it makes people want to be a part of the movement so much more than if you just keep talking at them and not listening to them.
When you do understand them, when you really listen to those answers of a survey, then you can speak with empathy, right? They'll feel, what you do is you share the words back to them that you heard. I hear you're struggling with this, and that's what the politicians are doing all the time at town halls, right? They're listening and then supporting. So you have to find a way to do that online.
Some of the good ones anyways.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
and then they're adjusting not only their message, but their actual product, right? In this case, their platform.
I think that brings us to a good point too, in terms of authenticity, because I think we got to the same point where, you know, one of the reasons that Bernie Sanders' message resonated so much, especially with young people, is that he gave so few fucks. You know, like he was just he didn't, I mean, it looks like he combs his hair with a balloon. You know what I mean? Like you got a JCPenney's, so this kind of manicured, you know, traditional politician that we've been sold, you know, is just not flying anymore. And we found that authenticity really resonates. And I think that that's also true across all of these causes. You know, I think that being authentic, and that's why I also love that suggestion about recording your blogs on your phone, because it's in your voice. You know, you're not trying to think about how do I get them to do this. I'm really more thinking about communicating authentically.
And Bernie's engaging his people on such a wider level than I've ever seen any presidential candidate campaign. And the fact, like, he's putting out these notices to people to host create your Bernie story parties and make videos about your story. And that, to me, I mean, I'd get some goosebumps like thinking about that, because people need to have their voice heard. They need to have that forum, that platform to share.
And as we said before, we wanted to circle back to this. Now, what if I have been in my mission for a while, either I'm working for an organization or I've scaled my organization, you know, maybe I have a small team or I have you know, either a small or a big budget. what are some of the ways that we can help get more effective at our messaging? One of the things that have blown my mind also talking to you guys is I've learned more about retargeting. And it's sort of like, I don't know if you guys have people stalking you on YouTube, but there are certain people that, they seem to stalk me on YouTube. And the first thought is like, that really freaks me out, like how did, they just like, they're, and my second thought is, wow, if we could apply this to climate change or some of our pressing issues or this revolution, like how powerful is that? Because we spend so much time and energy knocking on doors. And meanwhile, with psychographics, if you watch it, there's a show called The Great Hack on Netflix. I really encourage people to watch, which is about how Steve Bannon and Trump and his team used these new technologies and new marketing tactics to win in 2016. So, and to me, it's like, they've already changed the game, and we're still talking about knocking on doors and as the only tactic, which I think is super important, but there's so many new tools at our disposal. And I find that a lot of the progressive causes and progressive movements aren't really in this conversation. So what are some of those tactics you feel that could help us take our game to the next level?
Yeah, and first off, I mean, I've been out there knocking on doors and canvassing and doing all of that, and what we're talking about never fully takes away from the power of having a face-to-face conversation. Mm-hmm. So this is an enhancement to it, and this is a way to really reach much further, much faster, and so that's the goal with the techniques that we are working with.
Mm-hmm.
But what are retargeting? Like, so what is that though? When people are stalking me on YouTube?
So retargeting is just like you said, you basically go on a website and that website will cookie your browser. And don't worry about what a cookie means. Later on, you see an advertisement for that same website somewhere else. And I'm sure anybody that surfs the web has experienced this. So these are called retargeting ads. And it can be done just purely on Facebook, for example, or it can be done across the web on all of the social channels, on YouTube, on thousands of media sites. And it's a super effective way to reach the audience that's already visited your site. And it's a lot cheaper too. It's about 50% cheaper.
So 50% cheaper than what?
50% cheaper than most ads that you might put on Facebook or Google. So it's super powerful, and we're excited about it because we think more causes should be running these type of ads, and we think more campaigns should also, because it's just so effective.
So it's sort of like we can it's like you can knock on one door at a time, but you can knock on thousands of doors constantly, and deliver a message to them in their phone or computer, and hopefully like delivering a message that's going to land with them. So getting the message to land is another thing. But so we're going to say on that, Daniel?
Yeah. So like in The Great Hack, which we watched after you recommended, and it's so to watch. It's so angering because
we had to watch it in 20-minute increments. We were getting so,
because they're so disingenuous. They're stealing people's data, and they're tricking people into giving away their psychographic data and not telling them they're going to use that in political ways. And there's a lot of kind of evil uses of the technology.
Just real quick, just to let people know, psychographic data means that they've compiled a like a dossier on me. They know my psychology better than I know, based on the psychographics means they know how I think, what my inclinations are, what my opinions are, what my biases are, and they're able to use that.
Millions of data points. Just
millions of data points. Yeah, exactly. I think they said like, what is it? It had over 5,000 data points on every person in America.
It's crazy. Very scary.
It's crazy. Okay, sorry. So
yeah. So I mean, how they did it was illegal and immoral, stealing that data. But in theory, some of the techniques can be used in very moral ways, very effectively, very even authentically, and in good heart, which is basically like speak differently to different types of people, right? And talk to them about what matters to them, and get them to take action and keep staying in front of them. So retargeting is useful because it keeps you in front of the same.
What does that mean by keep people in front? What does
like
that mean?
your message in front of their face on their phone, on their ads, right?
So current in their
like 7 times until they were. That's many years ago. Advertisers said people need to hear your message 7 times before they take action. It could be 20 or 30 now, they say, because we're getting so many ads every day. So that's retargeting does, is it keeps showing your ads to people, and you rotate them, show them a little different message over time until they take action. But like I said, the key starts with, do you know who you're talking to, right? So you survey people, you get to know what they care about. And then you segment people. You say, we're going to talk differently to different segments of the audience based on maybe how involved they are, what causes they care about. Are they already, their job title, or, all sorts of things.
If, like, for example, if they've already donated to your cause, then you can retarget them with a different message than somebody that has not donated.
Yeah, I feel like for someone whose head might be ready to explode right now with so much, I feel like we're gonna have to put up like a cat video or something for a minute. So
morning, very geeky,
very geeky conversation here.
We're gonna have to put like a cat video for someone to get like, retargeting and all these things. So, but what if I think like, wow, this is a good idea, I'd like to focus on retargeting, like, where do I start to try to get that to happen?
The first thing would just be put a Facebook pixel on your website.
What's a pixel? Facebook pixel?
Facebook pixel, and I'm not going to get into how.
Oh
yeah. Well, you can do a video. You tell them.
Okay, so the Facebook pixel is how you do most retargeting, but and it's a little complicated. But there's one method that you can do retargeting without having to do that. So this is how you would get started on the very easiest, very simplest, and you don't even need a website to do it. So what you do is you run a video ad on Facebook, and every ad has a goal. So you would set this goal to be as many video views as possible, right? Or give me as many views for as little as possible. And then that creates an audience of people who've seen that video in your Facebook ad account. Then you can create another ad, let's say a click to your website ad, or a click to something, like a donate or an event or whatever it is. And you only show that ad to people who watched at least 50% of the video or 70% of the video. And they're interested because they watched, not just 10%. So they've expressed interest. Those clicks are going to be about 50% cheaper than if you had just tried to pay per click out the gate.
Wow.
And we're not talking big budgets here for any of this stuff. Like, retargeting is, a few $100 depending on your traffic. If you have a lot of traffic to your site, it costs more, but a few $100 in ad spend could go a long way. Even $100 a month can go a long way with retargeting and with running the type of ads that Daniel's talking about.
Wow, awesome. And at the end of the day, for me, I just try to remind myself as I freak out a little bit with all these conversations, because it's uncomfortable. I wouldn't claim to be someone who has a great deal of technical knowledge, when it comes to these things. Again, it's like sometimes my head wants to explode when I think about it. And at the same time, Bill McKibben, we also interviewed Bill for this series. One of the things he said is that the solutions to getting the support and making the changes to take action on climate change and the climate catastrophes is outside of our comfort zone. So for me, from a leadership standpoint, all of these things, in terms of making an impact, is outside of my comfort zone. And so it's to, sort of, number one, get the support. Like I talk about this stuff with you guys a lot, like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. And so having, number one, if I'm struggling, it's because I don't have enough support. And number two, it's to be able to talk to myself in a way to be more gentle and empathic with myself, that it's going to be uncomfortable, as you said in the beginning, Michelle. You're like, just sort of talk yourself through it, so to speak.
Certainly. At the end of the day, I love sitting out in the woods and sleeping outside in a tent. And I mean, it's like just being in nature is so core to my soul. However, I see the value that the internet brings to expand our message, and that's why I stay geeked out on it.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say you can't be an expert at everything. So Facebook ads are not something that I would recommend everybody get into on their own. I would say that's a good place to hire an expert, because there's a lot of ways to waste money on Facebook ads and a lot of ways to waste time trying to learn every new technology. So you want to be focused on your core message, on your offering. You want to be focused on serving people and speaking about it, a message, and bring in people who know what they're doing. You don't have to hire somebody full time just for the core things.
Or assume that there are people out there who know what they're talking about, and if your message is good, they may want to come on board, or you may have to raise a little bit of money to actually bring on. For me, that was also a big part too, is to let go of the things that I wasn't good at and take me out of the leadership that actually creates the results. And this is something that we find in nonprofits all the time. They don't understand the difference between leaders and managers, and it's important to know that some people, their role is to be the face, or to be the energy, the passion to inspire others, to bring other people in. And then some people are really good at task-oriented organization. And it's good if you can do both. But I find that sometimes not having a clear delineation between leaders and managers leads to a lot of breakdown.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yep. And also it's a time suck for me to try to do things that I'm not good at, So creating team, like you guys are really good at the back end. And in real time, like even as we're doing this summit series, you can look at the analytics and say like what things aren't resonating with people. Like, why am I going to keep doing something if it's not resonating with people, if it's not creating value for them? And basically I could call you guys and you can tell me, oh, look, you're having a huge drop off at this point. Maybe we want to change something up. And I think that's really valuable, because the whole point is that this should actually be valuable for people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really important as an organization that you've got some analytics in place to know it's working. You have to see where are people dropping off, what messages are resonating, what's getting the most shares, signups, so that you can improve.
Yep, absolutely.
It's way more fun to be the revolution with a bunch of people.
It is, and they say like, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
On that note too, and thinking back to where a lot of nonprofits make mistakes, they often try and go at it alone as an organization. And because maybe we want to take the credit, or maybe we think it'll slow us down, it'll be too complicated, there'll be politics. But when you create organizational partnerships, like we're going to lift each other up through this campaign together. And this works as individuals as well. You can find people in like relevant, where you're not competitors, but you're supporting the same audience in a different way, and lift each other up, share each other.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah. Link to each other, host each other on a Facebook Live interview or on your podcasts, and those people lift you up, and that's free advertising again, right? You don't have to pay for your voice. Partner.
It's so true. There's so many people doing great things in the world, and it just sometimes it pains me to see that we're doing all this effort on our own, and that is the power of the internet, because we can bring people together from across the world to collaborate on the same topic.
And that is very much one of the core principles of the show is solidarity. We talk about vision, strategies, and solidarity. Without solidarity, you know, one organization is not going to solve the climate crisis. It's not going to happen, or the health crisis, or the, you know, racial justice crisis, or any of these crises. You know, one organization is not going to do it. You know, we really get to work together. You know, and when we bring everyone to, I think it was a Tecumseh. I'm going to say it was Tecumseh, when they were talking about. I'm probably going to get this wrong, the history wrong, but essentially there was a big meeting, you know, to deal with how are we going to fight the colonizers at the time, and the European colonizers. And if I'm not mistaken, it was, you know, he took one arrow and snapped it in half. And then he took a bundle of arrows, and he demonstrated that the bundle of arrows couldn't be snapped, right? And I know that that's also an image that's used by fascists, you know, can't do anything about it, but that's actually literally, if you look at the original roots of fascism, they use that same kind of bundle together. But the principle of solidarity is the same, you know? So when all of us work together and amplify our message, and we're not in this old paradigm of thinking that there's only a little bit of funding, and I have to compete for the funding, or I have to compete for the message. And, you know, I think Bernie Sanders proved this too, that, you know, you don't have to just compete for a little bit because of the internet. You can crowdfund a lot of this stuff as well, or, you know, share resources, share audience.
The climate strike is a great example of that, right? You've got 350.org, you've got Extinction Rebellion, you've got Greta and Fridays for Future. There's so many groups for supporting that and making this.
All the indigenous groups that were leading that as well. You know, a lot of great indigenous groups that were leading that. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Standing Rock was a big example of that. I mean, Standing Rock was, not only was it the coming together of hundreds of tribes for the first time, but also the unions were there, Veterans for Peace were there, Black Lives Matter was there, tons of different groups came together.
When that solidarity is there, the cohesiveness is there. It makes me think, you know, one of the most inspiring talks I ever heard was Paul Hawken at Pioneers, and his talk was about the other superpower. And he said, if you add up all the nonprofits and causes and organizations around the world working for progressive change, and he did this, he said, you know, and he showed them in a list, and it was streaming by like ants. So he started like this, and then they zoomed out. The list was this small, and then he sped it up. It was like, it would take us a week to watch how many people and how many organizations are out there working for positive change. If we could team up, we'll be unstoppable. We are the world's superpower. If and when we can team up and unite.
Woo! I love that. I love that. All right, so as we're wrapping up, you know, just want to create the opportunity for you to just say, if you have some inspiration, something that you have to say to anybody watching out there, just from your heart to their heart, what would you have to say? Someone, whether they're new to activism, they're just getting started, or they've been in the trenches for years, what would be your sort of words of inspiration you might have to say?
I just want to reiterate, push through your fears, push through your uncomfortable feelings. Like, I have anxiety. I told Jay getting on this call, I'm like, I'm going to get anxious. I know it. and it's just one of those things that happens, and it's okay. Like, just let it go and let yourself be you, because we all want to hear from you. And don't be afraid to let online be part of that forum of what you bring to the table.
Awesome. Daniel?
Yeah. We all have such an important part to play, our own unique thing, you know? So if you're not sure where to start, look at the intersection of your skills and your interests and your opportunities. ISO, interest, skills, opportunities, and just pick something to start with. Pick a group. to partner with. Don't go at it alone and try and do everything yourself. But playing a role on a team that you really resonate with, it's brought me so much reward. Just feeling like we're in it together and we're working on this.
I've really enjoyed meeting with you every week, Jay, as well. Like it's definitely a highlight of the week. Have our meetings. And, yeah.
Oh, you're making me blush.
And don't be afraid to share your message. Really, that's what it's all about. Is like find ways to amplify the good in the world and each other. What the good in other people are doing. Bring each other up. Let's celebrate the successes that are happening and teach each other about them. Pull each other all up together.
And there's never been a time in human history where one person has had more power to change. I mean, almost everybody has at least 400 or 500 friends on Facebook, up to 5,000, Twitter, maybe more. But, we can communicate with everyone simultaneously. And I think what ends up being lost is the fact that you matter. You have a reason that you have been on this planet and that you matter and that you have something to contribute that is really important. And that's not a message that we get in the media a lot, in our culture a lot. It tends to be the opposite. So I just got to say that the feeling is entirely mutual. It's honestly, it is authentically, it's scary to embark on something like this, and having you guys having my back, being able to talk on the daily or the weekly I couldn't do this without you guys. I really couldn't. And I just really appreciate, I mean that absolutely authentically, literally, because you also did a lot of the production. Like I literally couldn't have done this, without you guys. But also it's the, connecting with people that you're on the same frequency with. And I find that, and the last question also is how do you guys sustain yourselves through all of the work that you do? Because I know you both worked with different causes and nonprofits, and that sometimes it can be toxic to be in those environments. How do you actually sustain yourself?
Well, we're both pretty passionate about meditation and getting deeper into. I mean, I have a mishmash of practices that I do personally, like from Native American and Taoist and all kinds of stuff within my own little self. So, and Daniel?
Yeah, I have a daily breathing practice. I think that the breath is the quickest, most effective way to let go of stress and quiet the mind and make meditation easier. So I've got a lot of training from the Art of Living Foundation, from International Association for Human Values. I've volunteered through them to do trauma relief. And by learning to teach those techniques to others, they've really sunk into me much deeper. So the breath and meditation are my go-to to just keep a clear mind. And I think they've really helped me be so much more effective every day by starting with that, letting go of stress, bring up the energy, then I can do so much more.
Me too. And I find that even if you're working with a team and you get really mission heavy, like it's very heavy, it's, you can tell people start to tense up and it's very heavy. You'd be surprised what just inviting everyone to take a couple deep breaths can do. Just that kind of thing.
I love going to talk with people that are completely unrelated to any of this, to just getting different perspectives. It makes a huge difference in not being too narrow-minded in our approach as well.
Amazing. All right, guys. So this has been Be the Revolution. Thank you, Daniel and Michelle from We Goliath, and more to come. And thank you for the free gift that you're going to give people. We'll be looking forward to that. We'll let people know about that when it comes. And thank you so much for everything you've done and continue to do.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you, Jay.
Okay.
And children